Maximum News is a political satire podcast. The views expressed by the hosts or guests do not necessarily represent the views of the network or our sponsors. Also, it's very hard to talk about people like Ted Cruz without saying lots and lots of swear words. So maybe don't listen with the small little children persons.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I like it.
Feels good.
Yeah. I'm in a wrestling mood now.
Yeah. I when I had that music made, I said, he said, what kind of style do you want? And I said, imagine if Rage Against the Machine made music for the Rachel Maddow show. And,
Oh my God.
And he
nailed
fucking
it.
killed it.
Yeah, he nailed it.
Yep.
That was
Shout
perfect.
out to Kins once again for the amazing intro and outro music that you'll hear, as well as the commercial stings. Welcome back to Maximum News. Boy, oh boy, it's been a long time, and apologies for the major lapse in shows. First things first, you're going to notice that my name is Michael Zampino. Welcome back. We have a new co-host. TJ Clark is here with me. Thank you, TJ, for coming in.
Yeah, man.
And Toby Morton is going to be on the show as frequently as he is able to, but with Toby's websites and everything that he was doing, we decided to do the podcast, and he almost immediately became too busy to be able to do the show. So Toby not being here is nothing more than purely scheduling issues. Toby and I had a conversation about it. He's 100% on board with what we're doing, and he's going to jump in and be our third host at any time he's able to. We might have him jump on remotely. We might have him in studio when we can. But if not, TJ is here to make sure that we can get you episodes more frequently. So as you may remember from the first couple episodes, we are in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We are I'm a comedian, a writer, a musician, a father. TJ, what do you want to throw in there?
About myself?
Yeah,
man, I'm a father as well, and a theater major.
Beautiful.
Working in journalism for 20 years, broadcast television journalism. I'm also a comedian, a storyteller, husband, partner.
Beautiful.
All that stuff. Person.
Yep. My pronouns are he, him.
Mm-hmm.
Yours?
Mine are they, them.
There you go.
But I'm fine with any also.
Okay.
Identify as gender fluid, but
fair.
Very male presenting. So
okay.
I like to call it an Oklahoma he.
There you go.
Yeah, like if we're in Oklahoma and you don't want to have a conversation with someone, just call me he. It's fine.
When you're like, she's a Philly 10 but a LA 6.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's fucking mean. Don't say things like that about people if you're out there. That's not nice.
Absolutely.
Never rate someone with numbers unless it's like a stat, like basketball. Like he was 12 for 14. That's provable.
Totally.
Speaking of basketball, are you a basketball guy at all?
I like it. I enjoy it. I don't follow it like super duper. What I catch from the news.
we are recording this at the tail end of All-Star Weekend. And listeners may not know I am a huge basketball fan. Oklahoma City Thunder, my team. I grew up a Bulls fan. My dad was from Chicago, and I was born in '81, so I grew up with the Jordan era.
Yeah, same here.
So I grew up watching one of the greatest teams that's ever played, and just fell in love with basketball. Anyway, last night we had the skills competition, the 3-point contest, the dunk contest.
Yeah.
And this year's dunk contest was really interesting because this is the first year that they opened it up to G League players, which is like the sort of minor league affiliate, if you will, of the NBA.
Yeah.
And this kid named Mac McClung. Remember that name, Mac McClung. I remember this kid because I remember seeing viral videos of this guy on YouTube when he was in high school. This kid was doing 360 backwards reverse dunks in high school, bro. Wow. And he is like all of like maybe 6 foot, little white kid. And it, bro, hops like a... This kid, his first dunk... He had a guy put his kid on his shoulders, and then the kid had the ball over his head. And he jumped over both of them, grabbed the ball, tapped that shit on the backboard, and then dunked the motherfucker. And they said it they said this kid just saved the fucking dunk contest. Like, it had been a little boring the last few years.
I imagine.
Holy shit, man. Mac McClung, shout out to that kid.
I remember when the coolest thing was just like Jordan like being in the air for a long time.
Oh,
like,
because
that was like the tops.
Oh, he jumped from the free throw line. That's still
a huge deal.
I mean, that's a long way.
Yeah.
That's like, I don't know, 12 feet, something like that.
That's how we got the nickname Air Jordan.
Air Jordan, yeah. That's like, wild, isn't it?
Yeah, that is wild.
It's a long way to jump.
What city is that guy from, the new dunker?
Oh, he, well, I don't know where he's originally from, but he's only played a couple of NBA games, but right now he's playing for the Philly, the 76ers G League affiliate.
Nice.
Which, I don't recall what they're actually called. They might just be the 76ers. Like Oklahoma City's is the Oklahoma City Blue. Fucking real original, guys.
The Blue.
Yeah. Anyways, we are now, we are not here to talk sports, but it is fun whenever I get to every now and again.
Yeah.
We are here to talk politics. A lot has happened since we last talked to you, but we're not going to try and cover everything that's happened since then, because holy shit, it's been a lot.
Oh man.
But let's just jump right off the bat. Probably one of the biggest stories is Mike Pence being subpoenaed by the special counsel, Jack Smith, for testimony regarding the January 6th insurrection.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard much about why he's trying to duck it?
So
if you would pull up the speech and debate clause, and let's see how that's actually worded, because Mike Pence is basically saying that they're not. First, he tried to say with the January 6th committee that Congress was not entitled to his testimony for this, that, and the other thing. Now that it's not Congress, it's the actual DOJ. He's trying to say that he's covered under the speech and debate clause, which essentially, if I remember it correctly, says that if you are conducting House or Senate business on the House floor or Senate floor, that during that time certain things you say can be sort of protected.
Yeah. So the general purpose of the speech and debate clause is to protect members of Congress from having to worry that anything they say in the course of legislative activities will implicate them in a lawsuit.
Which is fucking insane.
Yeah, so when you're out on the floor doing your actual business, you can say whatever the hell you want to say.
No, this should not exist, first and foremost. This should not be a thing.
Yeah, it's like when we're not editing the words coming out of our mouth, and we could be saying what's coming from our heart. Don't hold any of that against us.
Sorry, buddy, but no, you're going to be held to account every fucking second you're in there, because you're representing us.
Yeah.
That's
what a weird out.
Also, I know.
I'm sure they want to ask him about things that didn't just happen on the floor.
That's my big thing is that, sure. You okay. Maybe that day, that couple of hours window, you were on the floor. Anything you and Trump said to each other, maybe, but you weren't talking to him then. Yeah. The conversations they want to know about were the day before, the weeks leading up.
Yeah, the only thing you need to remember what was happening while you were on the floor is that there was a mob of people wanting to behead you.
Literally chanting, "Hang Mike Pence."
Yeah.
And they weren't singing "Hang out with Mike." Hang out with Mike Pence.
Yeah.
Hang out with Mike Pence. No. I'd like to hang out with Mike Pence.
Yeah. Not to mention your old boss, like, it was encouraging it also, and you're like kind of protecting him now.
Oh, your old boss was basically like, yeah, he had it coming.
Yeah.
And you're like, I will not badmouth him.
I know. It's like, wow, what a yes man, right? I mean,
none of these motherfuckers that are running or for president or that have announced or not announced yet, including DeSantis, DePantis,
Meatball Ron,
Meatball Ron. Jesus, we need to just quickly say that as a couple of chubbers, it's very funny to see a fatty call another fatty Meatball Ron.
Yeah,
they are almost the exact same size.
Oh, absolutely.
Like if you stood them next to each other, their body shape is almost identical.
Oh yeah, and in my mind, even DeSantis is a little more svelte, right? Like I just picture like greasy and just like oozy fatness when I think.
Yes,
and I say that it's like fat on fat hate, right?
Exactly. We can say this because we are full of hate. No, it's so funny, and also we said off mic, like, bro, your name is one letter away from Ron. Meatball Don is one letter away. Yeah. Like that's pretty risky.
We both know we've done comedy. We've been in roast battles. Like he's asking for a great comeback. Like. Trump is just setting himself up for just like, if that were a roast battle, someone would just come real hardcore with meatball dong.
I will not put myself in any roast positions ever again because, and here's the thing, sometimes in conversation I can be kind of funny and dunk on my friends or whatever, but like sitting down and trying to write jokes making fun of someone, I cannot do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't do it. The one time I did it wasn't a roast battle, it was just like a roast.
Yeah.
We did the roast of Dan Fritchie when he was leaving the loony bin.
Yeah.
And I sat there and agonized trying to come up with stuff. And I just couldn't do it. So what I did, and I knew it was one of those things you could only pull off once, is I went around the room and I gave each person one schoolyard insult and then dropped the mic. Was like, you eat farts, you're a booger, you smell like farts, you're a booger eater. Yeah. Just the whole way around. That's and then was out. And yeah, it killed, but it's one of those things where like if I ever did it again, they'd be like, no, you did that. We
Yeah. My favorite thing to do at roast battles is I would use my kids as a shield, you know? So, like, people always would attack me because of my kids. They were like, oh, yeah, your kids write all your jokes. So I would lean into that and be like, oh, I showed my kids your picture and I let them write roast jokes for you. And then, of course, I would write it and just be like the meanest, most vulgar shit.
And they think it's coming from me. Yeah.
I didn't say this. Don't get mad at me.
I thought for a second, I thought you were going to say like that when they make fun of you, you would be like, hey, man, I got kids. Just try and make them feel bad. I love that idea of being in a roast battle and they roast you and you're like, hey, man. And like that really hurt.
Oh yeah, it's always great when you can tell when you really got to someone.
Like get someone.
And you know what? It's bringing roast battles up during political conversation. I think is fun because, and we were talking about this before the show about how I feel like I miss cheesy Christians, right? I feel like, and then not all Christians, of course, but a lot like the core kind of general read the room Christians are a lot meaner than they used to be, and I think that there is some fun in being mean, right? And in God, it's appealing. There is a lot of appeal to just like letting that hate out and being mean to someone.
Oh yeah,
and I love roast battles because it's like a safe place to do that. It's
that's
like,
so funny. I can do it. I can do that online to shitty people so easily, and I'll go back and forth for hours with them, and I have a blast dunking on them and just being shitty. But like the idea of sitting and writing something mean about you, about one of my friends, like that's where I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah. Well, I'm giving you full consent already. If you ever say whatever.
We will dunk on each other if opportunity presents. But the idea of sitting down and trying to write it out,
absolutely,
yeah, no.
But there's something I think cathartic too about
for sure
about getting to be creatively mean, you know, especially because that's where it's fun to me. It's like in the creativeness of it. But like
I do that with scam texters a lot too. Like I'll go back and forth with them a lot.
Yeah.
Like I had a really short one yesterday that it just said. Let me find it real quick because it was actually really funny. Did I delete? Nope, here it is. Okay. They opened with, did you forget anything? We have an appointment to go see a movie. Don't you remember? I respond with, nope. They said, nice. Excuse me, my name is Nan. Aren't you Matthew? And I said, not anymore. The metamorphosis is nigh complete.
Nice.
No response.
They were like, oh, I don't understand this.
But sometimes I'll go for a really long time and be like, yeah, this is Jenny. Like, yes, I remember. I'll be there at 7:00.
I used to get multiple wrong texts for some lady named Tammy. And they were clearly like scam. Like someone must have like, associated my number with the name Tammy. Mm-hmm. But then like Tammy kind of became a character, and I would like speak as Tammy.
Yeah.
But Tammy loved talking in third person, so it'd be like, oh, Tammy has no opinion on that, but Tammy has a lot of opinions about this. And then anyway, so
it's so funny.
Whenever I got a text that mentioned Tammy, I was like, oh, excuse me, I need to channel Tammy and respond to this.
Oh man, I remember one where I was going back and forth, and they were saying something like. Why don't you remember me? And I'm like, because you have not made a proper sacrifice to the dark gods. Yeah. Shit like that.
Troll those people all day long.
Oh yeah, and then at one point there was one where like they stopped responding, and I was like, I miss you so much. I miss you. Please come back.
That'd be funny. Revisit
Eunice,
some old
please
text.
come back. I love that.
Like,
And
how you
they
been?
come up with the dumbest name. Like, hi, I'm Eunice. And then it's a picture of this Asian woman. And I'm like, I don't know about that.
Eunice, come on, Eunice.
Also, it's like, this is the same picture as whenever you were Gladys. Anyway,
So get your anger out through roast battles and being mean to scammers.
and I think more politicians need to take a roast battle approach to politics, especially
Absolutely.
now that Donald Trump has basically opened the door to, just fuck all like niceties, you know what I mean? All these.
We're out here mean now, y'all.
Yeah, dude, and I don't really want like necessarily the Democratic Party to do that to each other in primaries, but like once it's general election time, like
this time of year is great when they're just like saying mean shit about each other. This is
Republican infighting
best.
right now is the fucking best.
And
Yeah,
you got it locally and nationally too. So it's
absolutely.
extra great.
I can't wait for someone to slap the piss out of Mark Wayne Mullen.
Oh man,
If you're not local, Mark Wayne Mullen is a turd merchant.
turd merchant. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He owns a plumbing company, and is just an awful person. I was on a plane to Wilmington, and he was on the plane, and I wanted to slap the shit out of him. And I don't choose violence, but you know how it is when you feel it.
Oh, yeah.
When you're like, when you know, like, this fucking man has never faced any real consequence for any of his actions in his life, and if someone were to slap him, it would be the closest thing to actual consequence.
Whenever I think of Mark Wayne now, I think of again January 6th. There was this great picture of him. They're on the house floor. Yes, he is behind. He's like one of the like pews. I don't know what they're called in the chamber, but he's behind basically a pew, and he's like peeking over it, like looking at the door, and it just looks like. I think I made a meme out of it, and it was like when your friends are over, but you want to pretend like you're not home, because that's what it was like. It was like, motherfucker, you invited these people over. Why are you hiding behind the couch when they come over?
Yep.
So
Him
like that
and
image, like anytime I think of him, I just think of that image, because that is just that just says everything. It's like you created this, but you're scared of it.
Oh, same thing with fucking Holly. Josh Hawley, right? Is
Yes,
Josh Hawley?
Yeah, I think that's his name.
When that motherfucker was literally running away down the hallway of the.
And they showed when they had the hearings, they showed video of it, and like the whole room was just like laughing at him running.
Yep, it is Josh Hawley. Yeah. United States Senator from Arkansas. Get your shit together.
Ooh. With your governor too, Sarah Huckabee. She said some real gross stuff in that State of the Union rebuttal.
That rebuttal, you could tell, was written before they heard one word of that speech.
Yeah,
because
completely.
it had nothing to do with the speech and was disproven by the things that actually happened in the speech.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, Biden said this, did this, and like, what? No, that's not what happened.
Yeah, I love that. Like, it was pretty baller from what I understand and have read. Like he just like set them up left and right.
Oh,
like,
the best
they're
one.
they're booing and everything, just like right into his hand of like
it was the Social Security thing is
That
what he
was
got
great
him on.
too, yeah.
So he really fucking set him up and said, some Republicans want to make cuts to Social Security, and they all boo. That's and fucking hillbilly Marjorie Taylor Greene jumped up and said, "You're a liar! You're a liar! You're a liar!" Dressed like fucking Cruella de Vil. Like, you're a liar! But then, lo and behold, there's a shit ton of video of all of them going, I want to get the fuck Social Security out of here. So then he's like, he basically is like, oh, you're saying you don't want to? And they're like, yes. And he's like, so we'll say right here and now that we don't want
all
to.
agreed on it,
Yeah.
right?
And it's like, you idiots.
Yeah, that was great.
And then you got McConnell coming. Mike McConnell and Tim Scott.
Yeah, that's the good beef there.
Oh, that beef is so good.
Yeah, that's great beef.
I mean, if McConnell weren't on the verge of just falling into a pile of dust, I would say they should actually fight. But like McConnell walks around with like signs of lividity.
Yeah,
Like
he's one strong wind away from just disappearing.
Bro, his blood is already settling. Like if he stands up too long, it settles in his fingertips and they turn purple. Like Mitch McConnell is a ghost at this point.
Totally.
And he's like, Tim Scott's a bad man. That's a Tim Scott plan, not a Republican plan. I'm a cartoon turtle.
Yeah, I do love it though.
Oh, it's the best. So he really got him on the Social Security thing, and I can't wait for that. Did you see Dum Dum MTG Marjorie Taylor Greene walking around the floor with that fucking balloon?
No. Oh, no.
She was straight up walking around the halls of Congress with a white balloon on a string.
Oh, no.
Really just owning the libs.
I'm imagining it was a Chinese spy balloon.
Fucking got us. Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. Of course.
Their jokes are the worst.
I know it. And I love the amount of now people that are like, hey, remember how in like elementary school you would tie something to a balloon and float it up there, and like you do science experiments and shit? Like there's balloons up there a lot. Like so like we found the one that was a definite spy balloon, but now we've shot down a whole bunch of like school projects and shit.
Yeah.
Now imagine that you're like an elementary school kid. You let the balloon go up and a fucking missile just like
yeah, you're watching a live stream in class of your balloon project, measuring wind speeds and like
and then all of a sudden it turns into the shuttle. What was the space shuttle?
Oh yeah, the Challenger.
That was the one.
Yeah,
that was fucking dark. Sorry about that.
I also watched that in elementary school, so I see why.
Oh, me too. Yeah, because that's what I was envisioning.
Yeah.
Yeah, the balloons thing is pretty silly.
Yeah.
It was really funny whenever they were like, right after that happened, they were like, oh, that's what all those things were during the Trump administration.
Yeah. There's all this shit talking. There's like, oh, wait, we had like 4 or 5 of those.
Oh, yeah, we just didn't know what they were until we shot this one down.
They seemed harmless, so we just let them float on by.
Yeah,
we were too busy ranting about the wall and other things.
I just love the idea with technology the way it is, and how like motherfuckers can like turn on your webcam, you know, without you knowing it.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, but the Chinese still have to float a balloon over the United States to spy on us. Like,
and it worked.
It's so funny, but it seems like such an archaic like attempt, like a balloon with a boom mic attached to it.
Exactly. Like this reminds me of a personal story, and it's you brought up sportsman. I guess. So
fuck yeah,
I played Little League sports, and I was like, I played second base usually. And I was a good aim, but I was a slow thrower, right? I never pitched. We had a pitcher who was like a badass. He pitched really, really fast, and he would like strike out everyone. But then like good teams would get used to him, right? And they would start hitting on him. And then I wasn't a pitcher at all, but one time this team who was just like hitting on our fast pitcher like left and right, like they decided to put me in suddenly. So here I come, like the slowest thrower on the team, but I had good aim, and they were like all ahead. They just like kept swinging ahead, and I was like striking out people left and right, and it was amazing. But it was all because I was like slow in elementary, and these guys got used to like this like,
had a timing,
like adult like badass like speed pitcher, and then I'm just coming up there like dope and like basically underhanding it, and they're like striking out left and like it reminded me of that. It was like we had all this like high tech technology to catch all this like secret shit, but the balloon we missed. We just like we let it travel our entire country just because we're like and by the time we noticed it, it was like well now it's going to hurt all these people.
There's a whole documentary called Screwball about how like the major league batters are so used to such speeds that like when you throw them a 50-mile-an-hour fucking weirdo ball, like they're fucked.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's wild.
Yeah.
Let's see what else happened.
Also, as a fat person, I'm dying to get a white T-shirt and just put balloon espionage or not a Chinese spy balloon.
Yeah. Like I'd rather be fighting Chinese spy balloons. My other car is a Chinese spy balloon. My other car is a Jewish space laser. That's still one of my favorite things that dummy's ever said. Do you remember that?
No, the space
that when Marjorie Taylor Greene said that the wildfires were started by Jewish space lasers.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah, she said that the Jews shot lasers from space to start the fires because they would somehow profit? Question mark.
I don't. And these people still get elected.
I know.
That's the scariest thing.
It really is.
The House is wild. But what's crazy is that you're seeing some of them trickle over to the Senate, like Mark Wade Mullen.
Oh, I was going to say, and like, I know, I can't fucking believe he's a senator. the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene is now making an attempt to play like she's mainstream, or by like being she is to Kevin McCarthy what the little cartoon dog was to Spike. That's like, come on, Spike, me and you, Spike, I'm coming, Spike, yeah, you got it, Spike, you're right, Spike. She is now that to Kevin McCarthy, and is like, she wants so badly to be Trump's VP. She wants so badly to be Trump's VP. The State of the Union was so great because it just showed that Kevin McCarthy, no matter how much he thinks he has her under control, you can't. She's fucking insane. Yeah. You can't reel in insanity.
I love that guy became the House Speaker under just the worst possible conditions.
That man,
he just gave so many. He's just like, oh, fine.
Every moment of his work life is under duress. Like everything he does is now under duress.
Totally, yeah.
That man is a hostage to his own party, and it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it's poetry.
But it sucks though because it's going to lead to a lot of terrible things for the country for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Which is one of the other great strategies I think the president had during the State of the Union, which was making a point to list every piece of bipartisan legislation that passed in the first 2 years to show the contrast that will come with the amount of legislation that doesn't pass now that the House is in Republican control.
Completely.
And just for the sake of being obstructionists.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing, it has nothing to do with the validity of the policy. It has nothing to do with
and by the time of the presidential election, they'll have some good data on. You know what I mean? There'll be some good commercials.
Yeah. Well, my other favorite thing too is like when we had that sinkhole on Riverside recently, and somebody goes, if they spent blah 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 money on Ukraine, but they can't spend blah 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 to fix the roads. And I'm like, number one, the infrastructure bill has not had time to be implemented yet. Yeah. We just got allocated the money just now, and also we can do both, dummy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, stop thinking. I hate the idea of like, oh, well, because we spent money on Ukraine, that's why our roads are fucked. Yeah. Or because we spent money on Ukraine is why we can't have universal health care.
Like, they're coming from different bank accounts.
100%. And it's like, no. The money going to Ukraine really isn't the biggest problem. Our own local military industrial complex, our domestic military complex is where most of the misallocation and you're spending trillions of dollars on a plane they flew one fucking time. Like, come on, man. Like,
shoot down a balloon.
I mean, I swear to God, one thing that the politicians a big thing, a missed opportunity, I think, is open the books up, kid. Open the books up. Show what we're spending on what.
Totally, yeah.
Why don't they do that? Why don't they say, here's how much money we spent on this B-13 or whatever the fuck plane. Yeah. Here's how much money we spent on this. Here's how much money we spent on this. And here's what it did for us.
Oh, yeah.
Here's what we could do with that money.
No. They want to, because they don't want you to know how much money.
Exactly.
They want to, like, locally, I think of when there was so much uproar about like funding for OETA that like almost every year, but I specifically remember it a couple of years ago. It was like they were like, we had a tight budget, we need a cut. So like they're talking about cutting like, the OETA budget. When you look at it, it's like the tiniest thing, but just because like they sometimes air news that you don't like.
It's social programs and education are always the first cuts that they bring up. Is anything that helps regular people,
and they get taxpayers so mad about it. But when you look at it, it's like you're giving most of your money away to like bullets.
I mean, and here's at the end of the day, they've convinced a lot of poor people that the things that are keeping them poor is other poor people. When in reality, it's the legislation that's just funneling everything upwards. Trickle down economics was a fucking lie, and it's time that people realize that it is literally the opposite of how it's described.
Oh yeah,
trickle down economics is something that operates under the insane assumption that corporate CEOs are generous and good people.
Yeah.
Guess what? They're fucking not. There might be 3. I bet you could find me 3. that are decent people, but I bet you they still take advantage of the fucking American corporate system.
Absolutely. Because we were talking about this, my wife and I recently, because we were talking about like the unemployment, right? And how like it's cool. Like in a way, workers feel like they have more rights. There's more jobs out there. So you can kind of like move up a little bit. A lot of people are kind of leaving their shitty jobs and kind of getting better jobs. So everyone kind of trickles up, and then you have these like low paying jobs then that are open and that no one wants. And I feel like those are the ones that should probably be and are being automated, right? So essentially we're seeing things more automated and those positions going down. But instead of like the money that used to pay those positions, like filtering to the other employees, they're all just like
go straight up.
Straight back up to the top, baby.
And the argument can be made, and my personal opinion is that the automation is not necessarily because the people don't want the jobs. It's because people don't want to do them for an unlivable wage.
Exactly. Yeah.
And instead of paying a livable wage, the corporations just decided, well, we could do it with robots and we save more money.
Absolutely.
Then they could, and then it's fine to a way. If like you're going to have robots do low paid jobs that you're not going to ever pay people well for, that's great, but take the money you're saving and pay your other employees. The other employees that are still
working,
there. Yeah, if they're still getting the same wage and you're paying less employees and making more money, then you fucked up.
Yeah.
I'm that motherfucker that I will stand behind 6 people in line at Walmart to not use the self-checkout just as a point of... And, you know, I fucking hate the fact that I'm in Walmart in the first fucking place, right? Yeah. But it's, you know, we got to do what we got to do when you can't afford the fucking nicer stores.
Yeah.
You know, the more ethical stores are too goddamn expensive because ethical consumption doesn't exist in America.
Exactly what I was about to say. Ethical consumption and capitalism. You always have to remind yourself of that when you feel
so the little things.
Guilty a little
the
bit.
Little things I can do is like not using self-checkout.
Absolutely.
You know? Those are the things where I can be like, this is me doing my part. And I love it when they come over and they go, sir, we have a lane open here in the self-checkout. And I'll just go, nah.
I'm not giving some CEO my money.
Yeah. No, there's been a couple times where I was like, no, those only exist so they don't have to pay more of you so that they can have less, you know. And now I'm just like, don't do that. Just say no. That person doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
They're just trying to make a paycheck.
Totally. Yeah, so trickle economics doesn't work.
No, it's a goddamn lie.
Yeah.
It was a fucking lie, just like the election. You know, they've been putting these seeds in distrust for democracy for a long time, and Trump was just the catalyst. Trump was just the puppet they could use to push this thing because Republicans are realizing that the way that they have become basically a party that only functions for the elite, the wealthy, the white, for the most part.
Yeah.
They realize that while they still have a lot of voters left that might not be benefiting from their policy, that more and more of them are getting hip to the fact that Republican policies do not serve the people.
Yeah.
They're realizing that if elections are run correctly, they can't win on policy. They can't win.
Oh, yeah.
And so the only thing they can do is make people not trust the elections so that autocracy is the only option.
Yeah,
and that's fucking terrifying.
There's some statistic, I'm sure we can look it up, that Republicans haven't won a popular vote. Of course, we don't use the popular
since 2004.
vote. Yeah.
Since George Bush in wartime after 9/11.
Yeah.
That's the last time a Republican won the popular vote for president.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks gerrymandering and electoral college and the other
all
ways
this
of
shit
keeping control.
That has got to get out of here.
Yeah.
But the best thing we can do is keep, like I said, doing things like we need to get more politicians to open the books.
Yeah.
More politicians to
show your work.
Show why they're fucking you over. One of the things that I've done a lot when I get into debates with local Republicans, especially in Oklahoma, is pointing out the fact that, especially in certain towns that they live in, pointing out the decades of Republican legislation that have formed the world that they live in.
Yeah.
And asking things like, what is the last piece of local Democratic legislation that passed and affected you negatively?
Yeah.
Not fucking one of them can name one.
Yeah.
Or they'll come up with shit like CRT or, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no. Name me a tangible piece of past. Give me the House bill. Give me the Senate bill, the number. No. You can't fucking do it. No. You can't do it because all you've had for the most part, we had a Democratic governor not that long ago. But overall, at least 70+% of the legislation in Oklahoma has been Republican for a long fucking time. So the idea of blaming all of your problems living in Beggs, Oklahoma on the Democrats is fucking insane.
And I feel like, and even that, their problems trickle down too. And you think that like people will see it eventually, but they sometimes don't. But like I think of like healthcare, right? Like in the pandemic, how many like small how many small towns like hospitals got shut down and didn't have a hospital during the pandemic to go to because like healthcare fund, you know what I mean? Like their priorities are so screwed up. Like if they had national healthcare, if they had universal healthcare, like these people could be more taken care of. But then like rural people who live in rural areas have like the worst healthcare right now. And another one is veterans. Like,
my gosh.
I cannot believe that Stitt is like picking fights with veterans associations because
he'll be that first motherfucker. Support our troops. Support the troops.
But I think it's finally backfiring because I think veterans are starting to see it. And then they're seeing people like Jon Stewart, like
thank God for Jon Stewart like doing that with the vets.
The burn pits thing is huge. There's so many vets who are going to
and that was bipartisan.
That
passed on a bipartisan. I mean, sometimes it's only 3 or 4 Republican votes, but that still is bipartisan. That means that at least some people crossed the aisle and said, you know what, this is something that's actually good for the people, and I'm on board with it. You know, it used to be about policy. It's not anymore. It's all culture war. It's all, you know, owning the libs and fucking it's a war on Christmas. It's a war on white people.
It reminds me of
it's a war on straight people. Hey, I'm straight, I'm white, I'm here to tell you we're not that persecuted, y'all. All right, we got it pretty fucking good.
Some of that reminded me, I have weird comparisons, I'm sorry, but like
that's okay.
I worked in the 90s at a music store as CDs are being CD stores are closing, right?
Oh, I know.
And before the internet, it was really like big stores like Best Buy that did it because Best Buy could offer super cheap CDs, right?
Yep.
Because their appliances made them the money, so they made like CDs super cheap to bring people in the door, and then once people in the door, they were like, "Hey, how about these appliances?" That's how like the Republican Party feels to me in a bit. It's like they're out here just like making sure the rich stay powerful and like making sure they can hold on to money. But they bring people in the door through like social issues,
through culture war.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, aren't you scared of this and scared of this?"
Yes,
like, and
it's
even
like,
though
hey,
like,
guess
they
what?
are so,
hey,
like,
we hate the same thing you hate. We hate the same people you hate.
It's like come in here and then now support all these other like bullshit things that are completely against your interest and your well-being. But they got them in through those cheap CDs, you know.
Yep. We got you here with Nickelback. Oh boy, I don't want to name names, but I was working with someone recently through my day job, and just in conversation, they told me about someone, a famous person that they happened to be friends with. And immediately when they said who that person was, it's a musician. And they were kind of like trying to flex, like, hey, look, I'm friends with this musician. But that musician is an insane right-wing fucking nut now. And so I immediately was like, oh no, I don't need to talk to you anymore. And then, then she started naming like a couple websites that I needed to check out. And I was like, oh,
those are websites I will not be checking.
No, they're 100% QAnon websites that I do not want to be on that.
Reporting them and blocking.
I'm on
websites.
Enough watch lists as it is, baby. I don't need to be on that one.
Yeah. That was one of the disappointing things of the like when the pandemic made everyone fall to one side or the other politically. It was like watching your musical heroes like pick the wrong side.
Oh, I know, man.
I used to love Van Morrison so much, and then and I don't know. I'm sure politically,
Clapton.
I don't know what he feels about
Clapton's a shithead.
Clapton, and locally that's a huge one because people worship Clapton.
Oh yeah.
But for me, it was Van Morrison. Van Morrison like came out of like the 60s and 70s and like kind of love vibes.
Brown Eyed
like,
Girl.
So many great songs. Yeah. And then he's like, open the border. Like when the pandemic stuff, of course, he was mad that he couldn't tour.
He's like
an old man who played.
I like Brown Eyed Girl. I don't like brown girls. goddamn, Van.
Yeah.
Settle down. Jeez, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, that was disappointing.
Yeah, so many people just got emboldened to be like, oh, fuck yeah, it's cool to like talk about what we hate publicly.
And then there's badasses like Neil Young, who's still true to himself too, and it's
Hell
like,
yeah.
I'm leaving Spotify because Joe Rogan.
Yep.
And then everyone's like, oh, that's too far, Neil. But now, like, Joe Rogan continues to say shitty things. And
My
people
favorite
like,
are the
Neil was
ones that you don't expect to be like progressive.
Yeah.
Like Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.
Have you seen some of his responses to right wing trolls?
No.
They're fucking awesome, dude. They are
awesome.
fucking great. Yeah. Like, I mean, I would not say that Stone Cold's like a liberal by
Yeah.
any means, but like he's more progressive than you would think based on his accent. Question mark.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a very pleasant surprise whenever you're like, get him, Stone Cold.
Yeah.
All right, let's.
because there's not a lot of big, like, beefy liberals, you know?
Yeah, right.
I think of, like, who's the guy another wrestler who has, I think he's got 2 moms. He's got, like, lesbian moms, and he's like super progressive. Oh, is it David Batista? Is
it Batista? I mean, that would. I don't know that to be a fact, but that would make sense. But yeah, he's giant tattooed. The guy from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah,
Drax.
I'll have to look it up to make sure. But I feel like there was some wrestler, beefy guy, and he tells a story about like someone just assuming his like political beliefs because of his like connection to athletics or whatever, and that he like.
Yep. It's him.
Okay,
yeah.
cool. I thought so. Yeah.
Yep. The first thing I pulled up was Dave Batista shares sweet Instagram post to celebrate his lesbian mom.
Yeah. Awesome.
Fucking great.
Very cool.
Dave Batista's pride message. Fuck you if you don't like it.
Yeah.
But that's great from a guy like him because
I love it,
that's
right?
one of those guys that would be like, yeah, say that shit to my face.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah. I love it.
yeah, talk about those anti-trans bills to my fucking face.
That's what we need. Oklahoma needs some David Batistas to step up.
Or at least the legal version of a Dave Batista. The legal equivalent of a Dave Batista.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, a couple of bills to look out for as the Oklahoma legislation is back in session. Senate Bill 613 has passed. The Senate's on to House committee. That could pass as early as, I believe, April.
And which one is that?
That is Senate Bill 613 and House Bill 2177 are very similar. They are basically criminalization of gender-affirming best practice care for minors. And yeah, I believe there may be one that they're trying to get through there for a total ban even for adults, but they're definitely starting with the minors. And then, of course, there's a House Bill 2186. House Bill 2186 would outlaw drag story hour on all public property or in the presence of minors.
Yeah.
And basically, that the wording of that, I believe, could be interpreted to say that you could make it illegal to be in drag in public if there's minors present.
So fucked up.
Oh, it's unbelievably fucked up, and it's incredibly hateful.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of bullshit that can only happen in a place where it's been so gerrymandered that it's so heavily Republican.
Absolutely.
That the will of the people in your state is no longer an issue.
Yeah. It's like monopolies. They have a monopoly on conservatism in Oklahoma. Therefore, there's no checks or balances. It's now just unchecked, rampant, like
hatred.
How hateful and backwards can we get?
And here's the thing, a lot of I had a very good friend who's gay ask me my opinion because they had another gay friend who they weren't necessarily anti-trans, but they were talking about the trans sports issue. And like a lot of people, they found the exception to the rule. They found, the one example of someone who could benefit in a sport from, being born male.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, the entire thing falls apart once you realize that the argument is only in reference to men transitioning to women and being in sports. If you don't give a fuck about a woman transitioning to a man and competing in sports,
congrats.
Your whole fucking argument is moot.
Yeah.
And so she was kind of like, you know what? You're right. That really kind of makes it fall apart. You know, it really loses any of its, because at the end of the day, with any bill, with anything, you know, I feel like with any scenario, you're always going to be able to find one example to use as you're like, but what about this?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, are you willing to use that one example and say, because this might happen, everyone else has to suffer?
Exactly. Yeah.
Fuck that.
Because, and it's always
That's
like,
not how being a good human works.
Absolutely. And the rules and laws that you make to protect that one sports team is then making an entire generation of children feel like it's illegal to be themselves, you know, like, and like the negative, like you made this one team, you know, you kicked off the trans athlete of this one team. So now, like, you know, their players might be getting more like field time or whatever.
Yeah.
But now all over the state, you've got, teens committing suicide, like teens will commit suicide.
Yes.
They will kill themselves.
Yes. Teens,
not all of them,
teens
of course.
that will say things to you like, I feel like everyone in this state wants me dead.
Yeah.
That is a quote from my son, and it was the most heartbreaking thing I've ever heard in my fucking life.
No one should ever feel that way.
No, especially because of a fucking sport. And here's the other thing too: is this is also operating under the this insane Republican assumption that there's just all these men out there that are like, well, I can't win against the regular men, so I'm gonna transition to female just so I can win at sports.
So that, like
what the fuck?
You really all this bullshit just so I can win more games,
just so that I could. Yeah. Are you fucking kidding me? Do you really think that's happening out there?
Yeah.
You really think that's an issue?
Yeah.
And
not only just issue, but it's so common that we need rules and laws about it.
Someone saw Ladybugs with fucking Rodney Dangerfield and was like, we gotta fucking protect the world against this Jonathan Brandis ringer.
And what I don't, and I know the Olympics aren't always like the greatest on all their policies, but I do know the like the Olympics to me are kind of like the king sport, right? Like everyone.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the epitome of
it's like
sport
the
competition.
Most elite athletes, whatever.
Yes.
And even they allow trans athletes. I know they have some like laws and some rules about like, you know, their testosterone levels and some other things, but so do all the athletes. Like, they're testing all the athletes for like levels and stuff. So like, if the Olympics has found a way to like make it work and keep fairness, like I think
here's the thing about true competitors. Here's the thing about true competitors. They don't give a fuck who they're competing against. They want to beat everybody.
That's what blows my mind.
A bigger field of competition to win against.
Yeah.
That's like a person like Kobe or Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
If you said, hey, we're going to bring in a bunch more people to compete against you, they're like, fuck yes.
Absolutely.
Because that's going to make my stats matter even more.
Dude,
because that's that many people, that's that many more people that I beat.
Yeah.
Whatever. But that's the level, or the mindset of a real competitor.
Absolutely.
Is they're definitely not looking at it like, oh, you just fucked me out of my championship.
You should love new challenges. Like we were talking about Little League a minute ago. Like all of us, if you played Little League ball, you played against a kid with a mustache when you were like 7, you know, like we all like mature at different ages and different bodies. And I remember like if you had a player on your team who was like physically like larger than others, like the other team didn't cry foul. They found a way to make it work, right? They double guarded them, or they like threw more intentional walk, or you know what I mean? Like if you're a coach and you have a player who's like dominating on the other team, you get creative and you work around it.
They had to do that.
Challenge.
They had to do that when Shaq came in the league.
Yeah,
the league did not know how to respond to a center that was that fucking big, that powerful.
Yeah.
And then they realized, oh, he can't shoot free throws, so just foul him.
Exactly. You find a way.
It wasn't pretty. It wasn't honorable. But if you're competing, you know,
he got to play. They didn't say, "Hey, Shaq, you can't play anymore." They made it work.
I love those competitors too that just have that ability. I was talking about it last night, like with someone about how Kobe and Michael Jordan were two of the only ones that could literally just decide in the moment, oh, okay, I'm now going to take this game over and I'm going to dominate. There's a TikTok video or like a Facebook reel that is of an old highlight, and I remember this when it happened because I'm basketball guy. And so there was a game. It was when Ron Artest was with the Rockets. It's Rockets-Lakers, and Ron Artest, I think, was still pretty early into his career. Anyway, he had basically like, I believe he like shut Kobe down on like one play. Like he like stopped him on a play and then was like, you ain't ready for me. And you see Kobe go, what? And he repeats it. He's like, you ain't ready for me. And Kobe just goes, oh, you're a comedian now. And then proceeds to put up like 44 points on him. Like, I love that shit. Yeah. So like that kind of competitor is gonna be like, oh, okay, you're new. You're gonna come in and compete. Cool. I'm gonna beat you too because I'm the best.
Absolutely.
And if you beat me, that means I got to get better. Because that's how competition is as well.
Yeah. And
if you're good enough to beat me, then that means that I need to get better.
And that's how sports get more interesting and involved.
That's how they get better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. People come in the league that nobody knows what to do with. You know what I mean? Like the league's going to change because of Steph Curry. Yeah. Steph Curry being able to shoot a 3-pointer from wherever the fuck he feels like it. You know, now you got Trae Young doing the same
it's fun
shit.
as an audience. Like, if, say you're in the audience on a team, right? And there's a player you play every year, and that team kills you because they have that one player who's big. And then the 1 year that your coach and your team, like, figures it out how to solve them, it's going to be so great. You're going to go wild, right? When you finally, like, that's what's fun about sports, right? You follow your team.
The sense of accomplishment.
They suck, and then boom, that one game where they like pull it together. It's amazing to watch.
Hey, man, I grew up a Cubs fan.
Me too, man.
2016, baby.
Hell yeah.
We got it.
It's a great example. Yeah, it's like you.
I forget you're a Cubbies fan as well.
Like legacy. Yeah,
hey,
my dad.
We might come back. We got we had a good offseason. Yeah, Dansby Swanson coming in, Cody Bellinger. Looking all right.
Love it when the Cubs do well. The world is better.
I love the Cubs. I don't love all Cubs fans.
Oh, yeah.
But that's true, I feel like, of most of the Major League Baseball, to be honest.
Yeah. I saw a great statistic the other day, Meet the Press. They did great statistics on that show. And they did a poll about...
Show your work.
Yeah. They did a poll on the Super Bowl Sunday. And we always think that, like, football, football's probably more conservative sport. But, like, football, when they did a poll, is evenly split. Like, there's just as many liberal fans as there are conservative fans. And I think that's amazing because we often just think that, like, oh, yeah, sports, liberals don't like sports. But, like, for football, and some sports do, like NASCAR, of course, leans one way. Soccer leans one way.
For sure.
But, like, football, like the big American
basketball
sport,
probably leans pretty liberal.
Yeah. But I thought that was fascinating because in your head you think, one thing, and then that poll will show you, like, oh, no, this is pretty even.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I try... there was a minute where I was like, man, I'm fucking done with the NFL.
Yeah.
But I'm still keeping up with the Bears.
Yeah.
Even though they suck.
It's fun to root for a sucky team, I think.
If they trade Justin Fields, it'd be the dumbest thing ever. It would be the dumbest move since firing Lovie Smith after he took him to the Super Bowl. And passing up on Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, they did that?
They traded up to get Mitch Trubisky, who is now riding the bench fucking I don't know where.
Yeah.
And passed on Patrick Mahomes, who went 10th overall.
How many Super Bowl rings does he have?
2. He has 2 rings, 2 MVPs, 2 Super Bowl MVPs.
Yeah.
You fucked up, Chicago. Get it together. Get your poop in a group. Yes. Okay. So going back.
Oh, yeah,
no. That's fine. This is what we do. We still want it to be fun. We still want to have some goofs and some laughs because most of this is heavy.
Maddening. It will drive you crazy.
Absolutely. So again, just to recap those bills to look out for if you're living in Oklahoma and you're trying to watch out for the anti-trans and anti-gay, anti-drag legislation.
Yeah.
The best practice gender affirming care bills right now to look out for SB 613 and HB 2177. So call your people and ask them to vote no, even though it probably won't make a difference. But what we can do is once this bullshit is passed, if it is fight like hell.
Yeah.
And that means, of course, legally, not physically.
Yeah.
We don't want to incite anything.
There's enough violence.
When we say fight like hell, we mean it more metaphorically.
Annoy your neighbors.
Annoy your elected officials.
Oh yeah.
Annoy your elected officials, and by that we also don't mean don't make fucking terroristic threats to elected officials.
Yeah.
That is insane. When you have people like Madison Cawthorn, when he was like, it's okay to call your local official and lightly threaten them.
Yeah.
Do you remember he said that into a microphone while being a member of Congress?
Ugh, no.
Yeah, good riddance to that piece of shit. Just goes to show that you can be in a wheelchair and still be a fucking prick.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, he said into a microphone out loud in front of people, call your Congress people. It's okay to lightly threaten them.
Jeez.
It's not okay to do that,
Yeah.
but it is okay to voice your disdain for hateful bills and ask them to represent the people of the state and what they want.
Absolutely.
Because, at the end of the day, these bills are inhumane and they cause real, tangible harm.
Absolutely. And even if you don't have a child, I hate it when people are like, it's like, you don't have a kid, so you can't like picture how horrible it could be. Like, I don't think this is like sorry, like these kids need protected from their own parents, sadly,
Yes.
And it's up to us as like other Oklahomans to help protect these kids. I mean,
Absolutely, it is. You are absolutely right, and that's something
I hear that from and we both have children in school. My daughter is in high school, and ever since middle school, even she has known trans kids who are not
can't come out.
Exactly, not out to their parents, or try to come out to their parents, and their parents denied them. And there's like nothing more heartbreaking to me than to hear that. To just know that like there are children whose own parents like won't. And I know there's some of these ideas are new and scary, right? And you're so like scared. You've seen your child as this one way their whole life, and then they start speaking these new ideas and these new things to you, and it's scary to hear. But
yeah, I mean, and there are people who talk about they feel like they have to mourn for the loss of a child and those things, and it's something that is. It's a describable and understandable feeling to have.
Yeah.
But it's not a reason to deny that child's existence.
Exactly.
What's important is how you respond to that feeling and how you learn to both accept and cope.
Yeah.
Because we're not saying that every parent is just going to hear that from their child and be like, oh, great. Yeah. Becky and I's reaction very much was like, oh, this makes so much sense. Absolutely. Yeah. And we were very much like, okay, well, next steps. Here's what we need to do.
Yeah.
And I've said in conversation with people a lot of times that we're very lucky, and that I know that my son doesn't have to be afraid of how we would respond.
Yeah.
And that not every kid in this state is that lucky.
Yeah.
And that is terrifying. And I think about those kids a lot.
Yeah.
And it breaks my fucking heart. And
Yeah.
I want to hug all of them.
Yeah.
I want to be their dad.
Totally, dude.
I want to beat up their dads.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean,
and it's crazy too is that we're not even asking them to like, they don't like, I understand that every family, every parent, like, you have a way that you want to do things, but like at least keep the option open for other parents to do things differently.
Absolutely.
Like,
if you're out there saying that only parents are capable of making choice for their kids in school or vaccination, if you're saying that other people can't make decisions for your kids because you're their parent and you know what's best for them, but you're out here making decisions for other parents,
other people's yeah, exactly.
You're fucked up. And the argument they use is, the genital mutilation and blah, 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 blah. And look, this is another example of you might be able to find a handful of cases of minors having surgery.
Yeah.
But 90% of the time, and I say that pretty confidently.
Yeah.
It is not genital surgery. It is top surgery at most. And you might find an example of someone who had top surgery who later regretted it. You'll always find that example, but it's not a reason to shut out all these other kids that deserve, and I'm not saying that every minor should be able to just go and get top surgery like that. No, it's a process. You go through it with doctors. We go to therapists. We see psychiatrists.
Yeah.
It's not just a thing where we say,
one day,
we just go to the doctor and we say,
exactly.
Yep, cut them off.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not. It doesn't fucking work that way. It's a highly thought out decision between a family and a series of doctors, not just a doctor.
Yeah.
It's a series of doctors who have the best interests of these children at heart.
Yeah.
Whether you believe it or not. And you know, I know that everybody's case is different, but being able to see, and I don't want to go too deep with personal with my son because it's his story to tell, not mine. Yeah. But seeing the difference in his confidence, in his just his life in overall before and after, is unbelievably. It's tangible. It's something we can see. It's something we can point to. He's in National Honor Society now.
Yeah,
he's fucking killing it. He wants to be a public defender.
Hell yeah,
got the biggest heart in the world.
That's great.
Yeah, these kids deserve to be able to. And I don't think he would be doing those things if he were still in the closet or still, not able to be out in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it's like you said so many great things there. It is multiple conversations. And I think that's sometimes what it comes down to. These people are scared of the conversations they are going to have with their own kid, with their other family members, with doctors. Some people just aren't great at talking, and they don't know. Like, their kids come to them with this scary new thing, and they don't know how to talk to their kid about it. And then, that if they accept their child and these new things, that there's like 1,000 conversations that are come after that, and the conversations that you got to have them.
Yep.
They've got to be done. But so many people and parents are scared of talking to their own children,
and they're too selfish to face that fear.
Yeah, so they just want to shut it out, and it's like scary, and it's like no, and then now go even further and make laws so no one else can do this either.
Essentially, you're traumatizing your children willingly because you don't want to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Put that into perspective. The fact that I don't want to have an uncomfortable conversation, or I don't want to have to reevaluate my own thoughts or values or perceptions of my child, or even as little as I don't want to have to remember to say he instead of she.
Yeah.
If it's that much, then you really need to look inward.
Yeah. And
think about how much of it is you.
Yeah.
And how much of it is projection. Or not even, I don't know if projection is the right word, but if you're basically saying like, no, you have to pretend you're not who you are because I am unwilling to, I'm unwilling to make change or sacrifice on my own behalf. And then, in my opinion, that's bad parenting because you're making the child suffer for your benefit.
Yeah.
And that's not the way we bring up a better generation.
This amazing thing happens when you talk to your kids.
Oh my God.
You get to know them. Is that you have a pretty good idea of their maturity level, of their intelligence level, of how they handle certain issues. So I feel like if your kid, if you just talk to your kid like not about any heavy issues, from the very beginning, you talk to your kid, you're open to your kid, transparent, you build up a good dialogue, and not necessarily like, hey, I'm your buddy, right? Like, you still can have that like parent-child like dynamic, but just converse with them.
Yes.
And then you find out who they are. You have a better idea of their identity. So when they do come to you and say, hey, I think I'm this or I think I'm that, like you probably like you were saying, like you're like, oh my God, like so much makes sense. And then also I think you have a good judge of like how far you should take this. You know what I mean? Like again, it's multiple conversations. Like, well, what do you need now? And like what are you not getting that you feel like you need? And like again, like you're not out there like scheduling surgery like the very next day.
Exactly.
It is a series of conversations. You make sure that this kid has everything they need, and then that you're allowed your own concerns and fears. I just don't understand. Like it's a process. It's a difficult step. I think so many people just get scared of the work they have to put in to get to know
they're willing to sacrifice their own children's mental health and
so they don't have to
physical
tell the guy
health
at church
sometimes
that they have a trans son or
exactly
yeah.
It's a lot of looking inward. It's
for me it was because I have recently started identifying as non-binary. And I found out from a podcast. I saw a podcast, and there was a person named, I sometimes mispronounce her name. I think it's Alok. And there was this podcast about like manhood and like what it is to like be a man. And they had Alok on there who has a beard, but also dresses mostly feminine. But they're just so smart and intelligent. And they were talking about being non-binary. And I was just listening to them. And I'd heard non-binary because my daughter had friends who were non-binary, and she would talk about them being non-binary and use like they, them. So like that was kind of the first time I heard the word non-binary. It was from my own child, you know?
Yeah.
And then her like explaining what that was. So I had like an understanding, but I didn't like think, oh, that's me. And then like I was watching the podcast and I hear like Alok talking about it. And then it was like the lights start going off, right? And then you start like, oh my God, I completely connect with this idea and this thing this person's saying. And then you start like thinking back like your own like life. So I started thinking about other times where like, oh my God, of course this is me, you know? And because I always had like female best friends and I always like would much rather like when we had family gatherings, like I was in the living room with the women and not in like the kitchen with the men. You know, there's just like other things that just like once you look at you like hear a word that describes you, and to me it's language. It's like we update our iOSs on our phones all the time, and it's
Update your vernacular.
It's updating language, and like people, we should be smarter than our phones. You should be able to update your language, update your understanding of.
Deltron 3030 said, "Upgrade your gray matter because one day it may matter." I'm fucking Ari Melber over here.
Yeah. But it's like it's a process, right? Like
it
even
really
for me,
is.
even my own like discovery, it's like
and imagine having that you're having that in adulthood.
Yeah.
You know, being able to have that realization in adulthood.
Yeah.
And
I can have people, and I will have people who, when I say I am, look at me like, oh yeah, okay. But when you're an adult, I think you can handle that a little better. When you're a child,
here's my thing: is like, let's say hypothetically, I didn't believe in being non-binary, right? But you're like, hey, instead of saying he, I'd rather you say they.
Yeah.
The fuck do I care?
Exactly.
Like I have to say a different word.
Yeah.
Who
people
fucking cares?
People are scared of messing up, and I hate complaining about cancel culture. Because I think it's a very useful tool. But
yeah. Oh, sorry. No, I was just being silly. I was just bouncing.
I thought you were telling me to check my phone.
No. Sorry. But, I was bouncing the pen on the table.
Man, I forgot what I was saying.
I forgot too.
It was a great point, whatever it was.
Oh, damn. Oh, fuck. What were we talking about? Well, I mean, obviously we're talking about, having that realization as an adult.
I don't remember.
It's okay. Well, one thing I will go back to that go ahead. No. If you remembered, please.
I think I was just talking about looking back. No, it's gone. Sorry, it's gone. It just like floated away.
Well, looking back and being able to have everything sort of make sense. Just to touch on the overall, like, because I identify as hetero male, but I also hate the male construct of the idea of what it is to be a man. I was the sort of similar where I was in the kitchen with my grandma. I was hanging. My mom was a single mom. I was an only child, so it was me and my mom for a long time. Even when my first stepdad was around, like he worked all the time, so it was just me and my mom. And I've always sort of hated the pigeonholing of like, oh well, you're a man, you have to like this and you can't like that.
Yeah,
you have to be into this and you can't be into that.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's fucking stupid. Like, I love basketball and I love musicals, and that's okay.
Yeah,
like,
I love that about you.
Yeah, I'm like, I was a fucking angsty punk rocker, but I also played Conrad Birdie in the High School Musical.
Sometimes I forget how much you love musicals, and then in the group chat we're in, I'll see like so
Quote
much musical, and then you're just like running off, and I'm just like, holy shit, Zampino knows so much about musicals.
Yeah, I love it. I love musicals. They're super fun. I don't love all of them. Some are bad.
Oh yeah,
Cats is bad.
Really?
I don't like Cats.
I like the movie. I have to admit, the
Really?
movie I got great enjoyment.
The movie was
it was so weird.
It was weird. I mean, that's one where I'm like, yeah, it's kind of a fun ride if you're real high.
Oh
but
yeah, it's a horny ass movie, but it's weird enough. Yeah,
Cats are horny. Though.
they are horny. Yeah, I remembered the thought.
Welcome back to Cats Horny. Go ahead.
So I was scaring everyone out there by slowly complaining about cancel culture.
Yes.
But like I do think that like I think it's a great tool, but I do think that it's now made people scared of fucking up.
Right.
People are so scared of fucking up, and you have to allow people to screw up. I screw up my own pronouns all the time. Like the way I explain it, and we mentioned at the top of the show, like I like to use they, them, but I want to allow people the freedom to not have a conversation if they're talking about me with their family and they don't want to say they, them, because they know their conservative dad's going to be like, I see you avoiding he, and I don't want to like put people in conversations I don't want to have, because that in Oklahoma can be scary in different ways. But anyway, my own pronouns I screw up all the time because I'm a stand-up comedian. I started doing comedy again. I took off during the pandemic, as you know. And then I'm starting to like trickle in some older jokes. I try to do a lot of newer stuff.
And it's muscle memory.
Oh my God. I like misgender myself so many times. And I use the wrong pronoun because it's part of my set, right? And like, even though like I'm not up there just necessarily reciting monologues, it's still a part of your language, it's part of your rhythm.
It's a script.
Oh yeah. And brains are dumb. They love being in low power mode all the time.
You've essentially written and memorized a script.
Yeah, exactly.
You wrote a thing, you memorized it, and now that word is just part of the script. And now you have to remember to change the script, and that's hard to do in the moment.
Exactly, but all it takes is just like now when I'm on stage and like it does come out, like sometimes I'll correct myself and then other times I'll just kind of make a mental note.
Sure.
And then next time, like make sure as that line approaches and it kind of sticks out and
you think about it more.
Correct myself. It's a process, and no one's asking you to be perfect right out of the gate.
Oh yeah, no, my son had it really great when he was talking to his grandparents and basically saying like, you're going to mess up, but the best way to react to it is to not like beat yourself up.
Absolutely.
It's to
don't make it about you.
It's literally just a quick correction and move on.
Yeah.
You acknowledge the mess up, and by acknowledge the mess up, it doesn't mean apologize or anything else. It literally just means as something as simple as being like, oh, well, he, and then moving on.
Yeah.
That little correction says to them, I'm
try. Effort.
Yes.
Yeah. That's all they want to see.
That's all they want is knowing that you're trying. You're gonna fuck up.
I recognize who you are, and my brain is dumb and programmed a certain way, but I recognize who you are, and I'm making an effort to see you as you are. Yeah.
Yes, I want it. It's important that you see that even though I'm making mistakes, that the effort is there.
And that's all. That's the energy that we want parents to have approaching their children, right? Like instead of just making a law because you don't understand them and I don't understand where they're coming from, and you think it's just some trendy thing you saw on TikTok, and this kid's telling you, no, this is who I am inside of me.
And speaking of playing off of the fears, and there's this this misinformation that's being pushed by the right that basically is saying that liberals are telling 8-year-olds that they're trans and going and mutilating their genitals.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
No.
That's one where you can't even find an exception to the rule unless it was a right-wing nut job doing it to try and give an example.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just not happening. We're talking about, post-puberty or puberty, it's either puberty or past puberty teenagers, right?
Yeah.
And when you're talking about the rare exceptions where you might find a minor who had a surgery, it's probably top surgery.
Yeah.
And the likelihood of them being under 16 is even lower.
Yeah.
So, even if you can find that case of a 13-year-old that had top surgery or whatever, it's always going to be that one exception, and it's never going to be the reason to fuck it up for everybody else.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word.
Yeah. And even if in this, the doctor who performed, if there is an instance, we're not speaking hypothetically, if an instance where there is a child under a teenager who had a surgery, and then if that doctor, like if the community of the doctors want to criticize that doctor for doing it, then like, let them sort that out. I don't need politicians telling me like what medical doctors should and shouldn't be doing, and then like threatening to like fine them and jail them or whatever they're threatening doctors to do. Like, let doctors, like a doctor has to have a license. A doctor has to still follow other rules that other medical professionals make. If the medical community says this is okay to do, and then a doctor does it, that's great.
Guess who I'm fairly confident can't make as educated a decision on my child's well-being as the medical community. Turd merchant Mark Wayne Mullen, the fucking plumber. Yeah. I'm sure he's just as equipped mentally.
Plumbers are fucking great. I need plumbers all the time. I don't know how to work on my house. Like, I love plumbers. Like, you do a great skill, but that doesn't mean necessarily
absolutely
that you know what's best for my children.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is like, if your whole thing is like, this isn't safe for the children, we need to take the choice out of the parents' hands, then never again come to me with that. Don't fucking try and vaccinate my kid, or don't whatever. Don't try and make my kid read a book about black people.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh God.
You motherfuckers.
Yeah.
And they're also using this misinformation of the fact that they're like, there's so many more trans non-binary teens and blah, blah, blah. And there's not more of them.
Yeah.
It's never been that.
Yeah.
They're just less afraid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even though it's as bad as it is with these bills being passed and stuff, there is a larger portion of the community that is accepting, and that is allowing more people to come out without fear.
Yeah.
And that's why it's not that there's more of them. They've always been there.
Yeah.
It's just that you had them too fucking scared to be themselves.
I love language, and I think that there's so much. Again, when I learned the language of a non-binary person, and then and I learned like so much, and so much like made sense to myself. But also, I love looking at language like in history, because if you look at language and where like certain words come from, you realize that certain things existed at the times.
Absolutely.
So, and then we used the word bleep this if you don't want it on the air, but tribbing.
Oh yeah, I don't bleep
I
anything.
used the word tribbing at a Jackbox game the other day. And then like some people didn't know what it was, so I wanted to like look it up to make sure I was like defining it right. And then in looking it up, I found out that like tribbing comes all the way from to Greek. It's like a Greek origin, and like the Greek translation.
Oh, the Greeks were
like,
nasty.
Yeah,
the Greeks were fun, man.
The Greek
Greeks
translation of
Greeks
tribbing was a masculine woman penetrating, and specifically using the word penetrating another woman. So they had a word for a woman penetrating another woman.
See?
That sounds like, and they didn't call it a man, they called it a woman who sounds like she's got a penis. So like they had a word for a woman with a dick having sex with another woman. So they accepted that as a woman. You know what I mean? Like, so like even in the Greek times, they were accepting trans people.
Just from a scientific standpoint, like the idea of being tied to any sort of gender normification because of the genitals you were born with, like the existence of a hermaphrodite should fucking demolish that argument in itself.
Completely.
Like if someone is capable of being born with both sets of genitals, then your argument is fucked.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, but
especially if you're religious and you're thinking like God made this person.
Yeah, I'm over here like prove what's that asshole? Prove me wrong. Right?
Prove me wrong, bro.
Was that Steven Crowder? That fucking dipshit?
God, yeah.
That guy sucks ass. Anyway. Anything else we should touch on?
No, we covered everything, dude.
We pretty much except the mass shootings and
the other horrors going on in the world. Was there any other like House bill stuff and state bill stuff that we didn't get to?
The last one, of course, if we didn't was 2186. If we didn't say it, and that's the drag story hour. That's the one that could potentially, based on the wording,
most they all sound dangerous, but that one,
well, this one, because of the way it says drag performance in public or in the view of minors, would lead me to believe that they could use that as an excuse to saying walking in public in drag is a drag performance, and that if you're doing that in front of a minor, it's against the law.
Oh yeah, you can see them. You can see them taking that step.
They always, and here's another thing to look out for if you're sort of novice to paying attention to legislation is always pay attention to wording, because they'll use phrases like that loosely on purpose. Yeah. They're using that phrasing so that later on down the road they can use it to justify the horrible things that they know they're about to do. Mm-hmm. So be aware, be alert, be woke, whatever you want to fucking call it. But be aware, and always listen to the wording. Always pay attention to how they're phrasing it. Mm-hmm. And let the people know that you don't support this shit. Let your lawmakers know that, hey, I didn't vote for you, but you represent my district, you represent me, and I don't support this. Yeah. And if enough of us do that, I don't know that we're actually going to sway the legislation here. And
I think that like telling your peers and your neighbors is just as important.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Because like normalizing things is so important. Like calling your I know you feel like the most direct thing you can do is to tell your politicians because they're voting. But these politicians have already been elected. They're already like trying to get reelected. I don't think we're swaying their ideas too much.
Well, and it's so one-sided that they know they're not going to get outvoted.
You're way more likely to sway the idea of your coworker who you share an office with, who has iffy political beliefs, but has gotten to know you and your family and your kids,
Yes.
And then like so many people, like they just connect in that way. So if you can like just talk about your family and talk about, and I know talking about politics at work is dumb, but to me, this isn't politics. This is people you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think it's fine to normalize it. Like I haven't been very publicly about my gender yet. I think I'm going to be more and more because I just think that in Oklahoma, non-binary people, especially like our governor did take it off. Like someone was great and like had it on their birth certificate as an option. And boy, he immediately like ripped that off and like made executive orders and shit, so like there's not enough representation. I don't think people understand what non-binary is. Like they get like trans people, but sometimes the idea that you're neither, just like, it's like a new idea. So anyway, I myself want to try to be more public and more open because there's a lot to disarming fear. There's a lot to...
I always end up going back to the primal idea of the fact that gender and what it meant to be one gender, we made that up.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you, all of these things that you're like, oh, we can't break. That's just how it is. No, we made it up.
Yeah.
We made everything up. We're the only species capable of just making up the idea of being like, oh, well, you were born with a penis, so you have to be into lumberjack shit.
Yeah,
like
it's like, oh, you have a vagina. Here's your dress.
Yeah, we made
like,
that shit up.
Why are dresses for women only? No one said that.
We made it up.
Dresses are bullshit. They're just like fucking fabric.
Yep.
So
yep.
It's not.
Guess
clothes
what?
aren't gendered.
Yeah, men made it up because they wanted easier access to fuck women against their will.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus Christ! Stop with this bullshit. Yeah, we made it up.
Yeah.
I feel really good about this.
Yeah,
Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me on.
Really, really looking forward to future episodes.
Yeah.
Look out for those bills. To just continue very quickly touching on the idea of just, letting someone in conversation know that you don't stand for that shit really does make a difference. I have an actual example. An old friend that I used to work at a restaurant with, we reconnected after a few years of not working together, and they moved away. And then we became Facebook friends after reconnecting. And they made a post that was basically the whole, like, the Confederate flag being heritage, not hate. Mm-hmm. And I just very respectfully came in and was like, I have to very much disagree with you on this, and just laid out some facts on the origin of the flag and all of that stuff. And at the end of it, she ended up messaging me, you know what? I never looked at it from that perspective before, and I think you're absolutely right. And I took the post down.
Ah, nice.
Yeah. And so it can make a difference on an individual level.
Absolutely.
You know? And that's not to say go out there and be preachy and you know what I mean? But at the same time, if you're in a conversation and someone, someone uses the R word, let them know, like, hey, we're past that now.
Yeah.
I don't pretend like I wasn't out there using all that shit when I was young. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I had to do a lot of growth myself.
Absolutely.
I used to think the F word was one of the most fun words to say, and I used to remember, like, growing up, my aunt was gay, and I was always around gay people and always was accepting, but I would always be like, hey, you guys, look, that word is just fun to say. But I grew to the point of realizing that, like, look, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter because you're hurting someone.
Absolutely.
And that's what's important.
There's plenty of other words. There's so many other words.
Absolutely. And lots of words are fun to say.
Oh my God, yeah. Oh yeah, all kinds of them.
Anti-disestablishmentarianism, that's super fun to say. Imperialism, I'd rather be fighting imperialism, super fun to say. That was the episode, I think, of the last show.
Nice.
But yeah, so normalize it in conversation. And do it in a respectful way that just lets people know, like, hey, we're past that shit. We're growing.
Yeah.
We're learning. We know we used to do that shit.
It's a process.
Yeah. And those ones that'll be like, oh man, you used to tell all those nasty yeah, you know what? And I grew. I realized.
Did you know people can grow?
I realized that wasn't chill.
Yeah.
I was approached with my bad behavior, and I chose to say, oh, I don't like that, and I don't want to be that person.
Absolutely.
And you can do that. So yeah, TJ, thank you for joining the show.
Yeah, Zampino.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us. I'm really, really excited to be back. We will be with you hopefully weekly, but if not bi-weekly, probably at most. We will try not to take any more than a week off in between episodes, but we will also try and be here weekly because shit happens real fast, we got to keep you abreast, so to speak. And so, yeah, stay alert, look out for those bills, and be ready to, I don't know, call the ACLU or whoever else and file lawsuits and do whatever we need to do to make sure that we can protect our kids. So we'll see you next week.
Maximum News is a production of OLA Ministries. All original music written, performed, and recorded by Kintz.